Lesson 13, the last lesson of our series, Transforming Truths. And appreciate everybody being faithful over the last several weeks with the holidays and things like that. I will say that, sometimes it's important when you got a lot of things on. I know with traveling, with sicknesses and stuff like that, I understand all of that. But sometimes, man, we just get run down and stuff like that. And it's important to keep pressing through. Take time. I mean, sometimes you need to get that rest. But a lot of times when we're in life, just as we're kind of going into a new year, sometimes it goes in not from a rest perspective, but it goes into just a habit, or we just get out of church and things like that. So, let's be careful that we don't do that. Also, if you know folks, encourage them. If they're not going to church, encourage them, invite them. It's something that we need to be faithful on. And, we are God's people. It is our job to bring people in. And that's not the church's job. I mean, it is the church's job. It's the job of the church, which is the people, but it's not the organizational side of the church. That's not the job. And it's not, the pastor has his own personal responsibility to invite people, but it takes all of us. So my point with that is all of us need to be inviting. All of us need to be encouraging. But as we start in this morning, lesson 13, your path to God's guidance. Now, whenever we begin to talk about guidance, I want to make sure that we remember guidance is something that we utilize in every area and aspect of our life. So I remember one time, one of the messages or series that I was preaching, it was talking about your path, the paths of life that we take. And I had a bunch of stones. We had cut out stones and we had them taped down to the floor. And it basically was these looks like little stones and stuff, stepping stones, I guess it was probably what it was. And but it was representative of a path. And when God guides us, He guides us in a path. But the problem is we deviate off of those paths many times in our life. We just kind of cut to the left, cut to the right, and we don't stay on God's His guidance or His paths. And so when we talk about guidance, it's something that I think is important for us to acknowledge that God guides us if we listen. Now, if you ever follow GPS, I mean, I'm on the road all the time, and especially when I'm in another state or something like that, I follow GPS. But Amy, every morning whenever I go to work, I turn on Waze, right? I turn on Waze, and you think, well, you're going to the same place, you're going to work, but I do that because I want to make sure that if there's traffic, it will notify me, hey, listen. And quite often, we see that. We see that to stop traffic and things like that. But there's a guidance, and a lot of times we use that thing, use Waze, or we use Google Maps, or whatever you use. But I will say that many times when we go down south, or we're traveling, I want to use, I try to use guidance. But the same thing applies in our spiritual life. As we walk through life, if you notice there, Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 5, it says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, lean not unto thine own understanding, in all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct thy paths. So if we lean on God and we acknowledge His direction through His Word, that's where God is really going to step up our Christian walk with Him. It's when we listen. It's when we take in. And as we go into the new year, it's important to really grasp all of that. It's important for us to make sure that we are using the path in God's guidance. And understand that we have to figure things out, right? I mean, every step that you take, you're trying to figure things out. Am I right? In your life, in your jobs, in your marriage, with your children, I mean, God doesn't always just open everything up black and white. Sometimes there's a lot of gray areas and you're trying to figure things out. Okay, God, do I go down this path? Do I not? Yesterday, I was helping somebody try to figure a few things out, and we were discussing it last night, and was trying to work through some things, trying to figure things out. But it finally got to a point where I was like, it doesn't look like this is going to work out, at least as of right now. And in my experience, in my life, I can say that when it seems like God is allowing a block and a block and a block and a block and a block, and the decisions that you're making, He might be saying, this is not the direction I want you to go. This is not the thing that I want you to do. This is not the timing of when I want you to go. And there's usually a reason. Many times, Amy and I have, God is basically, to me, it's Him saying, putting on the brakes and saying, I don't want you doing that right now. And there's usually a reason, though. My point is, when it seems like God just keeps pumping the brakes, you might want to take a step back and say, okay, God, maybe this is not the right thing. And so last night we had to make a decision. Hey, this is not what we need to be doing right now. And the reason I say that is because that